Hi guys, welcome to Real Talk. I'm Pastor Matt. This is my wife, Tammy Brown. We love you guys, and we're looking forward to have some real conversations with you guys. You've sent in some questions. Tammy's going to read them. I'm going to answer them to the best of my ability. And if your question doesn't get asked today, it looks like we're going to be doing this for a while. So send in your question, and we'll ask, or you ask them, I'll answer them as long as they're appropriate and you're not mean.
Okay, this is my question. We've been in quarantine for a few weeks now. Do you know what day today is? What day of the week?
Not only do I not know what day it is, but I was in a text message thread with a friend, and I literally texted him this. So, John, if you're listening, I said, did we talk today on the phone or yesterday on the phone? That's how out of sorts I am the last couple of days, because I couldn't remember what day it was and when the last time we talked, so I could give him an update with news. So I think it's Wednesday. I have no idea what day of the month it is.
That's been one of the things about quarantine is no one knows what day it is. Yeah. For me, I'm like, it was yesterday or today or tomorrow or the day before, but I don't know what day of the week it is or what day of the month it is. I know you guys can relate with that. So that was my question.
Yeah, I got to tell you something funny that happened today for everybody's watching. So I went to the grocery store with my mask that Tammy made me. And I mean, I can't even tell who I am with my mask on and my glasses on. And I'm in the produce section getting fresh vegetables we've been juicing to try to stay healthy. And someone said, Pastor Matt. And I was like, I can't rob a bank. So all the banks in Riverside, you're safe because people can still.
Don't you think that's the weirdest thing though? Like what would have scared all of us with face masks and all of that a month ago? Now it's just like normal. Like you go out and people have on school face masks or what their faces covered, glasses on, but now that's like normal. Yeah. So, okay. How are you? We're going to start with that. That's a question people are asking. How are you?
Yeah, mashlomcha in Hebrew. So I've been learning a lot of Hebrew. So
class.
I'm in class twice a week, and that's still going on. So that's wonderful. But I would say metsuyan. So that's okay. Metsuyan. I'm okay. I think I'm up and I'm down just like everybody else. You know, we had a tough week this week, but we're getting through it, and I'm more encouraged. And so thank you for your prayers. And we're just like you guys. We're playing it day by day, and we're trusting God, and we're thankful for our church. And so, a lot of people don't have any friends. We got lots of friends at our church, and so I'm grateful for all of you.
We've just had a really, up and down week this week, but it's been so encouraging to go to our porch and someone left something sweet on the porch, or we're getting cards in the mail, and we're just really grateful for community. I mean, we preach community, and we're being the recipients of that right now. So
did you see that card that kid made me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Jeremy Martin, so cute.
Yeah, so thank you, Jeremy. It was just the sweetest little card for his pastor, and so thank you so much. Just for the arts and crafts that just show your love. So love you guys. Thank you.
Tell about our neighbor, like what our neighbors left, and then you could see him on our Ring camera.
Yeah, so we have Ring cameras on our front porch. So if you come to do something mischievous, we're going to see you on the camera. But our neighbors, they're a really sweet couple, and we've called on them to make sure they're okay. They're in their mid 70s, maybe late 70s, early 80s. I'm not exactly sure, but they're a long ways away from their family. They're from India, and they're sweet people. So we've called to check up on them. But they brought us lemons. But our driveway is like what?
5 or 6 car lengths long.
Yeah,
it's a long driveway.
It's longer, almost longer than I could throw a football. And so they wouldn't even come like in our driveway. They dropped off these lemons and ran. Watching almost 80-year-olds run on your camera is pretty hilarious. So I think they were afraid that we were gonna get our virus on them. But we're grateful for the lemons.
We've had avocados dropped off, sourdough bread, lemons.
Okay, the sourdough bread, that was like manna from heaven. Amy Hofshore, oh my gosh.
That was awesome. I made her masks for that. I was like,
we love you, Amy. Oh my gosh.
So good. Okay. So far, I know this is really tough time, and it's weird. Like every day we look at each other and just go, this is weird. Like I'm literally cutting up bandanas and sewing masks for reals. Yeah. But for you, there's been a lot of hard times, but what is one of the best things for you with this newfound time that you have in some ways? Like what's been one of the best things that you're experiencing out of this that you're grateful for?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for my life is the pace has been refreshing, and I've been encouraged. I'm a pretty routine guy, so at first the lack of routine really bothered me, but I've kind of embraced that, and just being able to slow down, and we're not night people, but we've started staying up later. That's just not who we are normally.
Later, like
yeah, like
10.
10:30. Yeah. And so I've just really enjoyed that. Some of the things that's been harder for me, though, I found that for the first time, I've gotten behind on our 60 days Bible reading. So I'm 3 days behind. Last week I was 3 days behind, and so it's weird how, because my routine's gone, I don't, I'm not as good as reading my Bible instantly on my phone. So I need to start to develop some new routines when things settle down, because that really just helps me out. But
what's been so weird for me is that typically, like, I'll get up, either work out or go straight to work. Then when I come home, I'm exhausted, and I'll like throw TV on and like watch shows for a little while. Mm-hmm. I've watched the least amount of TV in the last 3 weeks that I've ever watched, because I am getting my house in order. Like today I cleaned the candle cupboard. I've cleaned the pantry.
What is the candle cupboard?
The candles.
Oh,
like,
the candle.
She
has names for things. I don't know what they are.
The cupboard where we store the candles?
Yeah, I never will go in there. If you died tomorrow, I wouldn't know what is in there.
I've rearranged the house. The girls have rearranged.
Come on, guys. How many of you guys know where the candle cupboard is?
It's the cupboard we store candles in.
We do not store candles. She stores candles. That's what happens.
But I found like all of these projects to do that I'm actually watching the least amount of TV. I feel like I've been more productive on this time home than I was when I was going to work every day, which is weird. So, okay, what's been one of the most challenging things for you?
Just not knowing. I don't deal well when I don't have a sense of where things are going. So as a leader, I consider myself visionary. And so being unable and uncertain. So I knew instantly when this happened, okay, this is going to be a major crisis. And I knew that the church, this was a big moment for the church. But since that, I think there's been scary moments for us personally. There's been scary moments for our friends. And so just the uncertainty, and I told you the other day, I feel like we're just sitting in our home waiting for this virus to get us. And, so that's a low moment. So if I just freaked you out, I know one of you wrote in about panic. I'm sorry. That's just a moment. But that's where my mind goes. And so I think just trying to grappling with, okay, how am I going to lead through this? I'll tell you, though, and I was texting with one of my good friends who owns, multi-million-dollar business. And I said, the exciting thing is that God chose us to lead through this time. So I know a lot of you guys want life to get back to boring, but greatness comes out of, struggle and suffering. And that's where our greatest leaders, so as a historian, Churchill is not Churchill. He may not even be the leader of Great Britain if it's not for World War II. And so I think we've had a pretty boring life. We didn't have Vietnam. There's not a Vietnam in our age demographic. We had, Desert Storm, obviously 9/11, but those were instantaneous things. And then we kind of moved on, not if you lost a loved one, but as a culture we moved. And I think this is one of those things where this is impacting everyone you know. And so this is something that we're never going to forget. Your kids aren't going to forget. And I think it's going to make us better. Suffering makes us better. Struggle makes us better. And some of you don't want to be better, but God knows what's best for you. And so He's allowing us to do that. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching some of my friends who are pastors. They're not rising to the occasion. They're not making good decisions. They're not thinking about what can I do. And it's because it's overwhelming. Even for pastors, it's overwhelming and it's frightening. And so
that's what people, when they ask me, like, how are you guys? I just say every day we're trying to make the next best wise decision.
Yeah.
Because there isn't someone saying, oh, here's how you lead through this. Here's how you handle this. And every day I'm watching you having the big conversations, finding out the information, and wrestling with, we have a lot of staff that we employ as a church. We have a lot of people that we're caring for as a church, and I know that that's been a big pressure for you.
Yeah.
But I'm getting constantly text about how people are so grateful for how you're leaving. So I'm just going to
how I'm leaving? Leading.
Yeah,
she needs to enunciate on the D. Leading. I'm not leaving. I'm going. No one's leaving. No one's going anywhere.
No one is leaving anywhere. Well, you kind of just answered the next question. Was as a high 3, 7, 8, which is your top Enneagram. how's this playing out for someone, and what advice would you have to the high 3, 7, 8s on the Enneagram who are driven, energetic, that
Right.
7, and want to control and go do things of the 8?
Yeah, so I think what you have to do is so the 8, I think you'll appreciate my Easter message, because the hardest thing for me has been I'm not in control. And if you're an 8, I think what you really need to realize is you're not God. God is God, and he's in control, and he's always in control. And that's one of the things I really speak on in my message this weekend for Easter. But so I've had to really surrender my 8, and we had a night, and I don't want to get into details, where I really struggled. And what's interesting is she's usually the one that freaks out and goes insane, and I'm typically the one that is pretty mellow and sturdy, at the helm of the ship. And I just sunk, and she had to be solid for about.
Can we talk about that for a hot
Yeah,
second?
no, you were solid for a hot second. Yeah. But we've reverted back to normal now. So I just had to realize, I just had to surrender that. And so for the 8s, I just had to come to a period of submission. This is at 4 a.m. Okay, it's 4 a.m. I've not slept all night long. I've walked circles in this house.
And I got in our freezing cold pool.
Yeah, I got in the pool at 3 a.m.
to
try to relax myself. And the pool's 54 degrees, but that's how upset I was. And I just had to come to this place that we should all be at, and that's I'm not God. God, you're God, and worshiping God means I worship you when I feel like I love you. I worship you when I feel like I understand you. I worship you when I feel close to you, and I worship you when I don't understand and I am lost. We want to worship when everything's great, and so I just had to surrender to God, and that was at about 4 a.m. That's how long it took. And ever since that, I feel like I've been on an upswing. But here's what I would say for the 3 is I instantly had to, get goals. I mean, if you're a 9, you're on the couch all day long. But for 3s, man, we have to have goals. And if you're 7, you got to get out and do something. So I did a 6-mile run. You did a 3-mile run. So we're out.
Taking up running again. It turns out I still know how to do it.
Yeah. So, we live out in the country here in Riverside. So we're in horse property. So there's horse trails. There's nobody, nobody around us. So we went for a run. I mean, I think I told you I saw one person honked and said, "Hi, Pastor Matt." But
when I was out, there was nobody.
Yeah, there's nobody. So, but what I've decided is I want to lose some weight. I want to get in shape. I have some goals in terms of physical fitness and spiritual alertness. And so those are my goals. And so if you're a 3, you're not making sales right now. I mean, everything's kind of on the back burner economically, and it will be, unfortunately, probably a lot longer than we think. I know the stock market's up this week, but man, what do those guys know? They're like crackheads, man. They're up, they're down. It's just whatever. I would really encourage you to look at relational goals in this time, to look at spiritual goals in this time, and really set some high marks and go for it. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to do it for me. And so as opposed to training for an Ironman or something like that, I've just pushed that out of the way, and I've said, okay, Lord, I need to be physically fit during this time so that I can lead well. Because this disease is affecting people who are not well. So if you're overweight, you need to get healthy. You need to get your blood pressure in order. If you have diabetes, get off the candy bars. This is the time where you need to start going for a walk. Wear your mask. Go out there. And
in your neighborhood.
And quit watching the news.
Way.
None of it's good. Quit watching the news. And so the 3 in me never dies. It never dies. And
I think a lot of 3s out there, though, what I'm seeing is they're actually switching and channeling that into how can they rethink their businesses or online or different services they can offer, which has been super cool to see about what you can come up with when you have to. So
and I mean the world is changing. Let me just say this, and I don't want to freak people out, but we're not going back to normal. So just like post 9/11, we never got on an airplane again the same way. It's never happened. My kids will never get on an airplane where you can say bye to mom and dad in the terminal as they get on the plane. When I was a kid, that's what you did. You walked right up to the gate, and you said bye to your mom and dad as they got on the plane.
And you took whatever you wanted on.
Yeah, whatever you wanted, man. I mean, and so the way we gather, the way that we connect, life will never be the same because It's a new normal.
We know better now.
So you need to be thinking about your business, not what it was, but what it can be. Not what you did, but what you can do. And you just have to think that way. I mean, that's just a reality. You know, one of my friends is a pastor. He texted me and he said, "How are you guys going to do worship this week?" And I said, "Well, we have worship pre-recorded 3 weeks in advance. You know, now I wish we would have done 5 weeks in advance." But you've got to be thinking as a business person, what can I do differently and how can I do it differently? And, you know, I would just say, don't wait around for the government to bail you out, because who knows how that's going to be. So try to figure out what you can do and adapt to changing times. So.
Okay, that's a good segue. We're going to move into a new topic, which is, you know, it's been crazy and incredible to see the different churches respond in our city. You know, some churches are doing blood drives, which are essential right now.
Yeah.
If you see that and you're part of Sandals Church and you're able to be a part of it, figure out how to do that right now. Some churches are test sites for COVID, which is incredible. Some churches are doing huge food pantries and outreaches in that way. So I thought we could talk a minute about the response of Sandals Church in the greater part. And first of all, you know, our vision is about being real, and we are super high value on relationships. So you want to talk about our first response to our church.
Yeah, and so let me just kind of not segue, but restate, you know, man, I think it's great what Harvest is doing. It's fantastic. I mean, we talked about, is that where we're going to...
It takes all the things.
Yeah, is that where we're going to go if we want to get tested? Some churches are doing blood drives. Sandals doesn't need to do what everyone is doing. So every church needs to do their part. And so what we've decided to do as a church is we're making masks and gowns for hospitals that don't have them. I need to say that again. When you go to the hospital, your doctor, your nurse, whoever it is that you're seeing, they are undersupplied. So think about that. People are coming in hacking, you know, snot everywhere. They don't have the gowns that they need. And so what we've decided to do as a church is to supply those who are the most at risk taking care of sick people. And, you know, we want to do a couple thousands of those. And so we're trying to do that.
In the last week and a half, we've been able to supply over 3,000 of those, and that work's going to be continuing on. So we're really excited.
And so, you know, we're partnering with, you know, other manufacturing. We're using our warehouse space at Sandals Church because it's empty at the Hunter Park campus, and that's what we're doing. I know some of you said, how can I volunteer? And that's the thing is, you can't, because we have to make sure that the masks are clean, that it's a sterile, you know, environment, so that we're not giving contaminated things to our doctors. And so I appreciate so many of you have reached out to me and said, how can I help? And the way you can help right now is just continuing to give faithfully to Sandals Church like you are, and so that we can minister to those needs. So what we're doing right now is we're producing those masks, and we're also giving away thousands of dollars in gift cards for groceries. So we don't want to do the grocery shopping for you if we can. We don't want to deliver food if we can, because what that does is it puts extra hands on the food that comes to people. And so I know some churches are doing that, and I hope that they're doing it in a safe way and they're not getting people sick. But the less people that touch food, the better. And so we're giving gift cards to people. Now, if you know, if they can't shop or they're not able to do that, then we're going to minister to them. And so you say, well, how do we know who to help? We have made, how many phone calls?
Over 14,000.
Think about it. Sandals Church in the last 2 weeks has called 14,000 Sandals Church members that we have their phone number. So we've called you. How many hours of work is that? 2,500 hours of work. So we're not working. We're trying to call everybody that we can, and that's how we find out. Now, most people, here's what they say: how can we help Sandals Church? And right now, it's pray and give. Pray and give. And then I would say a third thing: share on your social media. You know, share on your social media and say, hey, come check out my church. Check out this message. This point really encouraged me. This point really inspired me. I saw somebody post this week, and they said, you might not agree with everything he says, but I found it really inspiring. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. So that's what I would encourage you to do. And as soon as we figure out ways for us as a church to do more, we're going to do that. But we had doctors coming to us saying, help us. And so we said we're going to do that. And so I'm really thankful for the doctors in our church who've extended their arms and said, we need this. And so we're not just making masks, like I said on the video, we're also making gowns because they need to be covered and they need to be disposable when they work with patients. So
You know what was interesting is this last week, like I had heard I'm a 6 on the Enneagram, so when I hear something, I get scared, and then I go into how do I need to be prepared. So I think Monday of last week or sometime last week, we don't know the days, I had heard that LA County mandated everyone has to have a mask when they're out, and I thought, that's probably going to be here soon. So I literally dug out like Ethan's camp bandanas, and my mom is on FaceTime helping me know how to use my sewing machine. I haven't sewn in like 7 years, and before that it was like 40 years. And I'm cutting them up. I'm watching YouTube videos, and I was posting it like, oh, I made these for my family and a couple friends. And all of a sudden I'm being flooded because 2 days later it's Riverside County and you have to have a face mask when you're out. So that's just, that need has become even so great.
Yeah, if you can sew, I know that there's a lot of college students at CBU and college students at UCR that are international students and they can't get home. And a lot of the kids, they don't have masks. So sew and make masks for those kids. And I know a lot of people get all critical, and it doesn't look, anything helps. Any barrier helps. So there are degrees of how it helps, but just understand that
something
is better than nothing. And so if you can make something for those students, that would be fantastic. And use your skill set. And you don't need Sandals Church to tell you what to do. You need to go to the Lord and say, God, what do you want me to do? How can I help?
Well, and I think that is another facet of us. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, hey, like, we can't know everyone. We can't go out to people, but you guys know the people you know. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is have every person that's called Sandals Church home we are Sandals Church. Go to your neighbors in a way like our neighbors did to us and dropped the lemons. They didn't talk to us or touch us. They just rang and ran.
And we've been using them. They're great.
You know the people in need that you can deliver. Matt and I have known a couple seniors that are at home and can't go out and at risk, that we've taken food and dropped it on the door and left. So
yeah, and one of them turned out to actually have COVID. So
we have 20,000 plus people to mobilize to do what they can for who they can, where they can. So we want you guys to be in your neighborhoods, text your friends, text your family, do it. And we actually have an initiative online to encourage, inspire, and also maybe go challenge one another in a way of like, oh, I didn't think of that, I could do that. But when you're seeing these things happen, to post it on your social media, hashtag it, We Are Sandals Church, and then you'll know what the church is doing. Because you're looking for us, but we're the church, and we're the ones to provide those needs. So much is happening, and so much good is being done for people. So put it out there so we can see it, and we can celebrate, and we can just see the good happening out there, and just minimize how much you're just hearing like COVID. Like, so do those things, use that hashtag. We would love to see what you guys are doing, because you guys are Sandals Church too.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're going to get into viewer questions.
We haven't gotten their question. Wow.
I know. This is a good episode. Okay. First question from Twilalaland. Should I ask my 20-year-old son to stop working at his grocery store until this is over?
Yeah, no. I mean, somebody's got to work at the grocery stores. And while I know you love your son is no more important than anybody else's son. And we need to thank God for the people who have to go to work, who show up. You know, I talked with one of my friends that's a firefighter, and they have firefighters that are calling in sick because firefighters are afraid too. And so we need to thank God for our firefighters that are going to work, that are showing up, for our first responders, for our policemen and policewomen, for the nurses and doctors, and all of those things. It takes all of us to do this. We all have to be willing to take risks. You know, I got to hear from the Reverend Franklin Graham on the phone today in a conversation with our president. It was an amazing conversation, but
I was like, not a big deal.
Yeah, but here's where Samaritan's Purse is. Samaritan's Purse has set up a mobile hospital in Central Park in New York City. So think about that. It's the most dangerous place on earth, in America at least, right now. Yeah, and Samaritan's Purse is right there. And he actually said they have a hospital in Italy as well, in one of the really, really hot spots there. And it inspired me, because he said he went and visited. And it's like, look, man, he's there encouraging people and Christians to be Jesus in the most difficult times. And so I know it's frightening, and encourage your 20-year-old to be safe. But I think what he or she is doing, it was a he, huh? Very noble. And tell your son I'm very proud of him. And to not be stupid, to be wise, and to wash, but to tell him that his pastor's proud of him and he's very brave. And I'm grateful for the food that I have. And I'm thankful for people who work in the grocery store industry. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's a good segue.
Thank you. It was a real question, though.
From Madeline Newcomb says, advice on how to manage life with a first responder spouse. Yeah. I'm an 8 and I just want to protect them. I think that's a great question because there's a lot of spouses who are married to someone who is going to the front line right now. So what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, this, I think it's her husband, right? Or just said married to. So I'm assuming you're a woman. If not, my apologies. We have great female police officers in our church as well. But your spouse's life is always on the line. That's why I'm a big supporter of our police. It's the most dangerous job. It's the hardest job. It's just the least amount of positive press and encouragement from people. And it just makes me so sad because our police officers are amazing. And so I would just say that they're no more at risk than they are normally. And what I would say on this is probably their risk of being physically harmed is lower because not a lot of people are out right now. But the harm of this invisible enemy is higher. Mm-hmm. And I would just say it's just new. And the truth is you couldn't control whether they got hurt before, and you can't control it now. And that's why I paced the house for hours and hours the other night, because I can't control it either. And we don't know how this virus travels. I mean, we could be bringing it into our own homes. And so we just don't know. And so I would just say thank you for your spouse and thank you for just your sacrifice and the fear that you live under. And I just want to say thank you for that. And what I would do is just give it to Jesus, and because your spouse is in his hands anyways. And so just say, Lord, I need you to.
And you got to remember what you can control and what you can't. What you can't control is what you're watching, what you're spending the time in your mind on, and things going on in your home. Like I know that as a spouse of someone who does go, it's different, but Matt's been in a lot of meetings, and so I'm trying to take care of some things here to help support in that way. Those are things I can control to try to even out the stress and the anxiety. So I just thank all of our spouses whose husbands or wives are going out. That's a special role, but we're just grateful for both ends of that spectrum. So
and I would just say this. I think one of the things I've realized is, while I care about human suffering and people, now is not the time to read their story, because what their story does is it gets in my mind, and it just really kept me up at night. And so I would say once we get through this, I think we can have compassion for people's stories, and we can read about their sufferings and the things that went on. But right now, that's just going to make you go crazy, and it did me. So. Okay,
M. Rod, I think that's what it is, but says, do you have a word of encouragement for everyone who's lost their source of income?
Yeah, Imrod, I'm sorry for you. Please reach out to the church. Let us know what we can do to help. Government checks, they say, are on the way. And so I'm hopeful that your income will come back. And, President Trump, like I said, I was on a phone call with him today, a conference call. It wasn't like a personal call. But he said that he's committed to getting checks to every American. And they're trying to do that as quickly as they can. But for those of you who are love to be so critical, at no time in human history have they tried to deploy, $1 trillion through banks. And so that's why there's been some hiccups, because they've got to get this money to the banks, and then the banks got to get it to you, and it's a challenge. I would say this is just like us trying to get to the moon, but JFK gave us 10 years, and Trump's trying to do this in 2 weeks. So it's just a different challenge. It's a unique time, but he's committed to trying to help us, and I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him so that he can help everyday Americans, because everyday Americans need help. And even for those of you who are super critical of him, I would just say this is the time to pray for him. This is the time to try to get behind him, because whether you voted for him or not, whether you're going to vote for him or not, he's our leader. And we need him to make wise decisions, and we need him to have good information. So I'm praying for him, and I would encourage you to join me.
Okay, next 2 questions have to do with what would you say to husbands. So the first one is, how do I support or encourage my husband into being the spiritual leader of our home?
Yeah, I would just say baby steps. And what I would say is, and I don't think it's helpful to say I need you to be the spiritual leader. So what Tammy will say is, she'll say, I need you to pray with me more. I need you to pray with me now. I need you to go talk to the kids. So she gives me specific things. rather than just simply saying you're not a leader. So I would say, here's two things that I need you to do. Or if that's intimidating, here's one thing to do. And you need to be patient with him when he prays. So don't critique his prayer or, say, just so encourage it and just say, I need you to pray with me. You could say it this way, I would sleep better tonight if you prayed with me, if you led me in prayer.
And I would just say, wives, the last thing that I've learned is I have no voice with him when I'm just critical. And so to watch your critical spirit throughout the day, throughout your times together, and when he gets it right, make a deal of it, because that will help him know, I got that right, and motivate him too. So just be an encourager when you can, the best you can. So, okay, next question is, my husband is spending 8 to 10 hours a day on video games with this free time. Mm-hmm. What is a healthy way I can approach this, because I hate it?
Yeah, I think video games, for a lot of men, it's just a form of addiction.
It's escape.
So I would say it's escape. And so I would just say, hey, can you talk to me about what's going on? Video games, and I think it's okay. I mean, I'm almost 50. I don't play any video games, but some guys my age do. It's just not my thing. But I have my own vices that I struggle with. So I would just say, hey, I don't like what you're doing. I don't think it's productive. And talk to me about what's going on in your head. And because I married you, and I want to be a part of your life, and I want to know what's going on. And so I wouldn't say no video games, but I would say, hey, let's come up with a plan. What can our days look like? And how can we get through this together? And this is a trying time. This is going to bring out the cracks in all of us. And so if you have a person that struggles, checking out or being lazy or giving in to vices, this is a time when those things are going to, they're going to come out. I mean, alcohol sales are going through the roof right now. Domestic violence, all kinds of issues are happening because we're confined with ourselves. So take this as an opportunity, and I would just express to him, it's not okay to play for 8 hours. You're a married man, you're a husband. So let's talk about what this looks like. But I would also say you need to be open to maybe what you're doing, because it's not just him, but what are you doing? And how can you come together as a couple to figure out what your day should look like?
Super good. So we have a couple more questions, but we're going to pause here. Thank you guys for being with us, and then you're going to join us again for part 2.